Okay, welcome everyone to the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee meeting. And that's it. Motion to adjourn. It is a nice summer evening. I note that Councillor Panchuk is here for Councillor Paul Carr, and Mayor Christopher is here for Mike Graham. Noting attendance and disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none, we'll move to the public meeting aspect. 3.1, the proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 is amended. 6745 Highway 62 North, former Township of Thurlow, now in the City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B771053. The owner applicant is 713-7796 Canada Inc., and the agent is A. Deschenais and Associates. And I would ask that, are you going to be presenting?
Sure, just have a few words. Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, so this rezoning application concerns a small parcel of land currently zoned rural residential. It's located within a larger commercial area that is designated in our official plan as commercial land use. The former residential property no longer contains the residential dwelling and has been merged with the larger commercial property at 6749 Highway 62. And the larger property contains an existing business, and the intention is to redevelop the entire site through the site plan process in the future. The application is consistent with the city's official plan policies, and staff supports the application.
Oh, that was very quick. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Ashton. Okay, so is there anyone here that would like to speak in favor of this application? Speaking in favor of the application? Come forward then, please, sir. What would you like to add?
Good day. Thank you. Christian Mercier from A. Deschenais Associates. So we were the architectural firm who did the site plan as well as the planning rationale. As mentioned, essentially, really the purpose of this is to take the residential use and consolidate it with the commercial so that it lines up with the official plans, a designation of commercial property. So that's really the purpose of this, so that really the Highway 62 North zoning use is in conjunction with the official plan with that corridor and so on. So.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect.
Do any of the members have any questions? Okay, thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor of the application? In favor of the application? Anybody opposing the application that would like to speak? Opposing the application? Going once, twice? Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to refer this on then to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting, please? Councillor Miller, Councillor Boyce, all in favor? Carried. 3.2 is the proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 is amended, Settlers Ridge, Plan 21M-271, Block 82, former Township of Thurlow, now in the City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B77-1054. The owner applicant is Settlers Ridge Developments, agent is RFA Planning Consultants, Inc., and I would ask Mr. Ashton to present the application.
Okay, so the subject lands are part of a development municipally known as Settlers Ridge Phase 2 subdivision, registered December 2015. Subject lands were zoned C4 local commercial as part of the approvals process for this development, and the intention was to service the residents of the subdivision through a local commercial development on this site. The inclusion of a local commercial area within the subdivision is permitted through the policies of the official plan, and it was identified through the planning rationale submitted from RFA Planning Consultant in support of this application that the developer has not been able to find a purchaser for the commercial property over the past 3 years. The applicant proposes to rezone the lands from C4 local commercial zone to the R123 residential first density zone with special provisions. So the official plan designation of the property is residential. Both residential uses and commercial uses are permitted in this designation as detailed in the staff report. In determining overall consistency with the official plan, determination of whether the owner is required to provide the commercial lands within the plan of subdivision was considered. So Section 310(1) of the official plan states that certain secondary uses of a non-residential nature may be permitted. Other provisions in the section discuss enabling provisions for local commercial uses, but there's no provisions that require local commercial uses to be provided. So in other words, the official plan provisions do not require residential subdivisions to provide local commercial uses within a plan of subdivision, and therefore it's staff's opinion that this application for rezoning from a local commercial to residential is consistent with the city's official plan, and the proposed zone, which is R123, a residential first density zone with special provisions, is widely used within the Settlers Ridge subdivision, including lands adjacent to the subject lands to the east and to the north, and this would be an appropriate use. And staff is supportive of the application. It's just to be noted that if council approves the application, then a bylaw for part lot control exemption will be brought forward to council in the near future, which will see the creation of 4 new residential lots.
Okay, thank you. So anyone would like to speak in favor of this application? Come to the podium, please. Speaking in favor of the application? Is RFA planning not here? There's an old face. Welcome. State your name for the record, please.
Spencer Hutchison, Senior Associate Planner, RFA Planning Consultant, Inc. I'm a placeholder to speak in favor. Mr. Ashton has done it very well, exceptionally. 3 planners have already spoken via the documentation you have before you tonight, so you don't need a 4th. Good project.
Okay. Do any members have any questions to ask of the applicant? Councillor Miller.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't have a problem with the application. There are a number of special provisions being requested under the application. So as I'm looking at the lot map that we have in front of us, one of those special provisions is for a 12.8 meter minimum lot frontage. Is that the same as, say, lots 134 and 135 and those lots immediately adjacent to the proposal, or are they smaller?
Well, I think that it's a sort of technicality. If you look to the north side, lot 133, which is another corner lot, although it's not strictly a corner lot, but the land to the west is the water course, bringing water from the north to the south. So, yes, it's 12.8 on the diagonal, but then there's 8.8 on the east-west. So, I mean, visually, if you look at it, it's actually bigger than the other 3. It's just because of this daylight triangle taken out, or as it's sort of shown there as block 256.
But again, I come back to the original question. The lots immediately adjacent to it to the east that are showing here, 134, 135, what would the width of those lots be, and the other lots that are along Kempton Avenue?
Well, they're all 14 meter. So this zoning replicates lots 134, 135 and on to the east, and 133 down to 128 on the north side. It's matching the same zoning.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for. If it's the same of what's being requested as what we currently have.
Yes, it is.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wanting to ask any questions of the applicant? Your Worship.
So the intent of this particular corner to be identified as commercial is because the trend now in these urban subdivisions being built in a rural environment and having a commercial entity of some sort so people can walk, so we can use active transportation. And I think the planning committee got it to staff, and staff made the recommendation, and the developer granted that and identified that corner as commercial. That's how I think how we got here today. And obviously with the report it says they haven't had success in selling, and then staff on page 25 kind of want to know how exactly they marketed it. I'm just a little concerned that this is premature. I mean, that subdivision is still new. The intent of identifying a corner, this is something new for our municipality with the subdivisions being built in areas that don't have any commercial entity at all, for families to walk to a corner store or walk to a corner pub or walk to a corner convenient commercial entity, was this whole idea. We could have called it maybe a bit of a pilot project. And my only concern is the developer, I know they have an invested interest, I fully respect that, and it costs money that it's sitting there, but is it premature? It's only 2.5, 3 years. I mean, the entire area isn't filled in. That would be my one concern. The other concern would be, I drove through there, and they have some beautiful homes. They're building homes on spec, and they put for sale signs. So they're making investments on building homes, and then they put a for sale sign on them. Was there any marketing plan to do the same thing with the corner? Maybe build a particular phase of a commercial unit and either put it for sale or for rent to arouse some curiosity in the commercial sector to see if we can partner, that neighborhood can partner with a commercial entity.
So you're asking the deputation that?
Yep.
Good.
Thank you.
I don't believe there was any formal marketing for this Block 82. I think it was through the developer, who's got a whole web of contacts and has been talking to people and offering it to people and wasn't getting a bite.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hutchison. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? In favor of the application? In favor of the application? Anyone wishing to speak opposing this application? Opposing the application? One last time, opposing the application. Seeing none, I'll take a motion to move this on to the Planning Advisory Committee meeting, please. Councillor Panchuk. I need a seconder. Councillor Boyce. All in favor? Carried. Motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Councillor Miller, Councillor Boyce. All in favor? Carried. So, moving on to the Planning Advisory Committee agenda. Note in attendance, Councillor Panchuk for Councillor Paul Carr, Mayor Christopher for Councillor Mike Graham, and Mike Letwin not present. Disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof. Seeing none. Confirmation of the minutes of the City Council Planning Committee meeting and the Planning Advisory Committee meeting held on the 3rd of July 2018. Mr. David Joyce, Mr. Ross Ray, any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Deputations. Do we have any deputations? Correspondence? Any additional correspondence? Okay. So we have two pieces of additional correspondence that were received late.
Yes, after the agenda.
After the agenda. So the one information from MP Ellis, and the second is from Paul Reeser respecting application B771054. Motion to receive. Motion to receive, please. Mr. Baltudis, Councillor Panchuk. Any discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, moving on to referrals from the public meeting. 6.1, proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 is amended. 6745, Highway 62 North, Part 1, Plan 21R-16202, former Township of Thurlow, now in the City of Belleville, County of Hastings. File number B77-1053. The applicant owner is 7137796 Canada, Inc.
Move as written.
Thank you. Any discussion regarding this resolution? Can I have a mover for this resolution? Mayor Christopher and Mr. I was going to say Mr. Baltudis. Mr. David Joyce. I just can't do it, can I? I know. Any discussion? You'll be happy to see me gone. Any discussion? Seeing none, call the motion. All in favor? Carried. All right, so moving on to 6.2, the proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 3014 is amended. Settlers Ridge subdivision Phase 2, Plan 21M-271, Block 82, former Township of Thurlow, now in the City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B77-1054. The owner applicant is Settlers Ridge Developments, agent is RFA Planning Consultant, Inc. Manager of Policy Planning's report number PP-2018-25, and the resolution reads that the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council. Number 1, that council receives report number PP-2018-25 dated August the 7th, 2018, regrading Block 82 on Plan 21M-271, Settlers Ridge Subdivision, Phase 2, City of Belleville. And number 2, that the application to amend zoning bylaw number 3014 is amended for land described as Block 82 on Plan 21M-271, Settlers Ridge Subdivision, Phase 2, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, be approved as follows. That zoning bylaw number 3014 is amended, be amended by rezoning the subject lands from the current C4 local commercial zone to R1-23 residential first density zone with special provisions. Can I have a mover for that resolution, please? Mr. Baltutis, Councillor Panchuk. Discussion. Any discussion? Councillor Boyce.
Thank you, and His Worship has, I think, hit the nail on the head on this particular item about when we discuss active transportation and the need for communities to be able to be more walkable. And I'm just wondering if there will be a policy put in place at some point where we look at other developments and we give them, are we going to give them 3 years to sell the property? We don't know how much they even were asking to list the property. It could have been so outrageous that nobody would want it. So I think he raises a very valid point, and I'm wondering if in any other developments right now we have the same situation.
Okay, who would like to tackle that question? Director Beauvais?
I'm not aware of any other similar situations, not that come to mind right away. This is relatively new, the idea of including the local commercial within. I think in this case, maybe the location that they chose wasn't necessarily the best location. If it had been more centralized, perhaps at the entrance to the subdivision off Maitland Drive in that area, maybe it would have been more attractive to a potential commercial tenant. I think the development group has approached us probably each of the 3 years looking for permission to be able to switch it back to residential because they weren't getting anywhere, and we kept saying no. We thought they should give it more time and that it was something the committee wanted to see, and then they're at the stage now where they're looking to finalize the street and get the surface asphalt down, and if they're going to switch it over to residential, now's the time to put the services in for the lots and get the surface asphalt on. So that's staff kind of agreed to let them bring the application before the committee. So as far as going forward, I mean, it's definitely something we can look at incorporating into the official plan, policies that would direct that local commercial be included within subdivisions and development areas, you know, based on the size of the subdivision, I guess. And hopefully they could be located in a spot that is centralized, not just for the subdivision, but some of the surrounding areas as well, and would be more attractive for commercial use.
Yes,
To
Councillor
you,
Boyce.
Madam Chair, and that was my point. Will when we create a policy, will we then be able to tell the developers that where approximately it should go, the commercial? Because you're right, it's not a good location, and so I mean that's probably one of the reasons why businesses are a little hesitant in purchasing it. So will we be able to create a policy that says, based on drawings, where it could go?
Well, yeah, absolutely. We'll work with whatever applications come forward and look at the specific nature of each of those applications and see which location might be best suited to it. But, you know, if the city is going to push to have some local commercial in there, if they know that up front, they can design that into the subdivision and probably come up with a better location, a better overall design that will work, hopefully.
Good, because I certainly want to see that policy put into place.
Okay, anyone else? Anyone else wishing to speak on this? Did you want to? No? Seeing none? Okay, we'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried. Moving on to 7.1, under reports, updated application, proposed amendment to zoning bylaw number 10245 is amended, -135 Station Street and 50 Albion Street, City of Belleville, County of Hastings, file number B77-1051. Applicant owner is 1993388 Ontario, Inc.
I'll move as written.
Thank you. So, moved by Mayor Christopher, seconded by Councillor Miller. Any discussion? Councillor Miller.
Thanks very much, Madam Chair. Essentially, I just want to compliment the applicant, because we sat here a month ago and there were a number of concerns expressed around the table, and it seems as though most, if not all, of those concerns are being addressed through meetings and also redesigning, taking into consideration the concerns that were expressed, and all within a month we have a presentation that I think meets not only their needs but the city's needs, answers the needs of those who live and own property around that particular development. And so I just want to compliment them for the way they've gone about it and for listening to what was being said here at planning, and I'll be happy to support it.
Okay. Councillor Boyce.
Yeah, I'm certainly going to echo that. I attended there was a public meeting and I attended with the residents, and anything from stormwater management to, I had concerns about green space and looking at it, and they've worked at reconfiguring and putting in gazebos, trails, and especially a community garden, which I thought was a great idea. The buffering was certainly important, and it was interesting to note, and I'm certainly grateful for them to give us comparables when we see other municipalities like Cobourg, et cetera, that don't have any basic minimum requirements for green space, and to me that's in this day and age that's rather shocking. So that we have a 40%. And they've reached at least 35% is something that I'm going to support. And as I told the developers earlier, that when we have affordable housing or any housing, it's always important that any new development complements the existing residential. And I think based on their new drawings, I think this certainly complements rather than detracts. So I'll definitely be supporting it.
Okay. Anybody else? Councillor Panchak.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I actually have a couple questions for staff, if I can. I wasn't on the previous hearing, and one of the questions I would have asked about was in terms of the stormwater management report. And if the question was asked previously, I apologize. I wasn't here. I didn't hear the answer. But the applicant is proposing to deal with any precipitation that would fall on the site, and then they would, it looks to me like they would hold it until it can be released into the stormwater system later. So I'm assuming it's going to be an underground tank that they're proposing. Is there an estimate on what the costs are for them to construct that underground water tank for this project?
Mr. Ashton, do you want to respond? It's your report.
They didn't give us any figures, but I would think that the answer would be a lot of money. So I think they feel that it's worthwhile to implement that solution. I think our development engineer who reviewed the report said it was kind of goes above and beyond what they were required to do. So
well, that's excellent news, and the point I'm trying to make is this is similar to the issue we had on St. James Street, where you know, the fact that our stormwater system in that area is not what it should be, and if we were to upgrade it, it would take some of this pressure off. But I think on St. James Street, that was in the vicinity of a couple $100,000 for their tank. This is a larger project, so I'm assuming that it is a lot more expensive for it, and that really is an unfair burden that the applicant is taking on in order for this project to go ahead, which is great. I certainly appreciate the traffic impact study that was done, and changing the access point to only off Station Street, I think relieves a lot of the residents who thought that Albion would be a problem street and there'd be on-street parking on there. I think that our parking requirements are excessive with developments of these types. We see that the numbers that we're using, the 1.25, in many of these style of buildings are unreasonable, that they're not being utilized at that point. And then I also see that they made changes for landscaping to increase it from 32% landscape open space to 35%. All of these items have cost the developer or the applicant additional monies to go ahead with this project. And, the reality is we have a housing crisis in Belleville, particularly as it relates to rental incomes. I would have been satisfied with the previous proposal. This one obviously is better, but the challenge that we continue to have is when we pass on these extra costs to developers, how do they find a way to build this housing, which is essential? And I think we all respect the applicants in this case, the fact that they've gone to these lengths, and I tip my hat to them. I will very happily support this resolution today and at the next council meeting. I also note that our Member of Parliament wrote a letter of support for this project, particularly as it relates to affordable housing. And again, we need to deal with it. This is a start, but we're also going to have to make it more easily affordable for developers to come in and build these style of properties for the benefit of our city.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, we'll call the vote. I just got to find out where I am here. We have a motion. Yep, okay, so all in favor? Carried. 7.2 is the request for use of two street names, Potters Creek Subdivision Phase 7, owner Potters Creek Developments, Inc., agent Ainley Graham and Associates Limited, manager approvals report number APS-2018-17. The resolution reads that the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee recommends the following to City Council: that Belleville City Council authorize the use of Dual and Letnan as new street names within Phase 7 of Potters Creek subdivision. Can I have a motion to receive, I guess, receive? Or to recommend to council? Okay. Mr. David Joyce, seconder, His Worship. Any discussion? Yes.
Yeah, the only thing I would ask or request, I guess, through you to staff, on a go-forward basis for the planning committee, it'd be nice for them to get a list of the names that are in inventory or in the queue now, because I think some of the members here went through the exercise of looking at the inventory of names. So it's always nice for the decision makers to know where you are with the pool of inventory. You had 100 names, 50 names, 25, and then maybe that will kind of ignite also some discussion of, do we go through another exercise again, of looking at individuals and family names that have participated in the community. So I fully support, but in the future, it's very odd that this happens, but it'd be nice to know for decision makers what the inventory is of the names, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And that will coincide with the next one, too.
Yeah, same thing.
All in favor? I did the vote. Carried. 7.3, request for use of one street name, Holly Landing Subdivision, owner 2579024 Ontario, Inc., agent RFA Planning Consultant, Inc., manager of approvals report number APS-2018-18. Resolution reads that the Belleville Planning Advisory Committee recommend the following to City Council: that Belleville City Council authorize the use of LEM as a new street name within the Holly Landing subdivision. I didn't know if that was Lem or Lemmy. Lemmy? Lemmy? Okay, can I have a motion for that resolution, please? His Worship, Councillor Boyce, any discussion on Lemmy?
So, Madam Chair, through
Yeah.
you, is that name in the inventory now in the pool?
No, sorry, so if a name is already on our approved list, nothing comes to council, they can just pick the name off the list.
Okay.
These were requests for names that were not on the list, so that's why they have to come to the planning committee and then on to council for approval.
Okay.
And prior to, and I think Greg has outlined it in his report, prior to us bringing them before the committee, we run them through 911 to make sure there's no conflict or anything.
Mhm. But can I just add to that? And I know you did a great job, and I'm supportive, but, so the name, like, is it a family name? Is it a pet name? Do we get any history at all on the name as proposed? And no disrespect, I fully support it, but, because I know there was some issues years ago on something like that, so can you walk me through that?
Certainly, yes, through the chair. I understand that one of the developers' mother's maiden name was Lemmy. So initially, their intent was to call it Holly Landing or something relating to Holly, but unfortunately, that didn't pass through 911. There were a couple of conflicts with that, so this was their next choice.
And what's through Madam Chair, if it's
Yep.
okay, Holly, what's the connection there?
Just that Mr. Holly had owned the lands for
Oh, I see.
quite a
Okay,
long
good,
time.
yeah, good, okay, thank you.
Okay,
Yep.
call the vote, all in favor? Carried. Moving right along to information matters, 8.1, the official plan and zoning bylaw amendment monitoring report, report to August the 7th, 2018. Can I have a motion to receive? Mr. Ross Ray, Councillor Miller, any discussion? Councillor Miller.
Yeah, just, I looked at it a few times, it's just on the back page, page 2 at the top. Are those two proposals reversed? Or am I reading it wrong?
On page 2?
Yeah, at the top, 1051 is 1052, or have I got that wrong? I looked at it 4 times, but I may have been tired. KGP Capital Realty, is that not Sydney Street? And RFA, or is it the other way around? I just wanted to see if I've got it wrong.
Director Bove?
Just to clarify, the applicant name and owner and the addresses are correct, the descriptions are reversed. So the application at the top for 135 Station Street should have the description that's listed below under 645 Sydney Street.
And 645 Sydney should be the description at the
51,
top.
that's above, yes. They got
Good eye.
reversed in there.
Well, I thought it was, maybe should have gone to bed, but something didn't look right. Okay, so now I feel much better. Thank you.
Good. Anybody else? All in favor? Carried. And any general business and inquiries? Any general business and inquiries?
Thank you. Yes, so, so we received today support for a development there on Highway 62, and there's another one that's already been approved and construction is starting, I think, in an auto parts store, but there's been inquiries now, we've had a number of questions about water. So Highway 62, the municipality, we've invested millions of dollars. So are these applicants going to be in the position to reach out to engineering and figure out if they're going to be hooked up to municipal water service? I know sewage is still on the horizon, I fully respect that, but the particular one here today, I couldn't read it from, I think it was, I'm not sure if they're setting up a septic and a water system, so I'm not sure, but are we starting that engagement now with our partners on 62?
I'll ask Director Bove to answer that,
Thank
as
you.
he's right on top of that.
Yes, that particular project that was here tonight, I think that they're looking at future development, but ultimately redevelopment, and obviously if water's available, that'll be an option for them. There's a couple of things going on, so we're working on a connection charge bylaw that has dragged on. There's a draft of it now. We're not necessarily happy with it, so we're working to fine-tune that, and that should be finished in the next couple of weeks. So that will go to council, and ultimately we'll set a rate for anyone anywhere in the city where they're connecting to the system, where the city has extended it out. They'll pay a set rate, so it'll be the same for everybody. There will be a different charge for residential development versus commercial industrial. The other thing that's in play is with that water main on 62, the issue for Belleville Water is a question of when there's enough draw on it to actually make it viable to turn it on. So there has to be enough people connecting for them to turn it on and safely operate the system. If they just have one connection at the end of the pipe, there won't be enough water going through it to make it safe for them to operate. So they want to make sure they get enough connections before they turn it on. But from what I understand, the interest is out there that there is enough connections essentially ready to go that they'll be okay. They have turned the water main on from Millennium to Maitland, and it's flowing west on Maitland. And then there's the last section to turn on going north from Maitland up to just north of the Somerville Plaza.
And just to finalize, so if you, Madam Chair,
Yep.
so you're thinking with a month and a half, you'll have some documentation?
The intent would be to take it to council in September.
Good.
So that we can finalize it. And I should add too, we have an option if anyone wants to connect sooner than when the bylaw is finalized. We have an agreement, sort of a placeholder agreement available that people can enter into with the city. So they pay sort of a temporary charge to do the connection, and then we reconcile it when the final charge is established.
Good. Good news. Mr. Ray.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a quick follow-up to Director Bove. That includes sewer and water?
Yes, so the connection charge will apply. There will be a separate water and a separate sewer charge because we have situations where there may be just water available, and we have situations where there may be both water and sewer available.
And that's for all through the city, whether it's Dundas Street West or 62 Highway?
That's correct, yeah.
Thank you.
Perfect. Okay, anybody else? Okay, seeing no other general business and inquiries, motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn, Mr. David Joyce and Mr. Baltudis. All in favor? Carried. I just had to get it right once.